A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Lisa Falkenberg, editor of opinion for the Houston Chronicle, and Jennifer Hedaya, executive director of Air Alliance Houston. Lisa, Jen, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Panel, we have an all-corporate edition of the good, the bad, and the ugly for you this week. First, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton this week sued General Motors for collecting drivers' private data and selling it, including to insurance companies, without the driver's knowledge or consent. Back in June, Paxton's office began investigating several car manufacturers over allegations they'd improperly collected mass amounts of data about drivers directly from their vehicles and then sold them to third parties. Paxton says GM violated Texas law by recording and selling that info, and that at least two companies have used it to generate driving scores for GM customers and selling those scores to auto insurers who likely use them to drive up the cost of insurance. The AG's office says customers didn't know that enrolling in GM products meant they were agreeing to that collection and sale of data. Texas sues GM over data it's collected and sold to insurers and others about its drivers. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jen Hedaya.
This story really got me thinking, to be honest. I know that consumer protection laws are vital. They protect us against false claims and false advertising. They protect us against malicious products that might harm or even kill us. In this case, as I understand it, Texas consumer protection law is being invoked because GM allegedly did not protect consumers' individual driving information and were sold that information without consent. The question this raises for me and why I think this is an interesting story is this. Is our individual driving information actually private? We drive in a public space. We are already surveyed in our driving by law enforcement. Our personal vehicles are inspected for their emissions impact, which is still the case in Houston for very good reason. My driving habits can impact other people. I can't just drive any way, shape, or form that I want because I might harm someone. So I think that if GM knowingly defrauded its customers for corporate gain, then of course this is bad and they should be held accountable. But I also think it raises some really interesting questions about what is and isn't private information.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly? Lisa Falkenberg.
I think it's good for no other reason than Ken Paxton is finally earning his keep. Instead of racking up, FBI investigations and, hanging out with the other woman, he is doing something helpful. And I also think he's kind of like this 3-year-old that realizes he got positive attention when he did something. So when he sued Meta and he got the settlement, now he's like, oh, I'm going to press that button again and people will like me. Okay, but seriously, it's also good because, look, the delusion that we have any privacy at all. I mean, we should all be aware. There's no privacy. There's no email that everybody just can't get access to someday but this does have consequences, real life consequences, because, for instance, thinking of some litigation in which a woman was claiming that she was stalked using an app that her former husband was able to get access to and track her whereabouts, and she actually didn't know it could work that way. Some people sign up for this willingly because they think, it's going to lower my it's going to lower my insurance, and that's fine. But do people really understand what it entails and how long they'll be tracked and the extent?
There's another wrinkle in all of this to me, and this is based solely on my own personal experience with my car, and I, in the last couple of years, entered the modern car era, buying a new vehicle that has all the bells and whistles and beeps and buzzes and everything. And my car beeps at me every time it thinks I'm changing lanes and haven't put the signal on, right? Except in Houston, it detects that every time I'm driving over painted over stripes. Because they've changed the lanes. I am in the lane. I haven't moved out of the lane, but my car thinks I have. And if that gets reported in the data, then it's going to conclude I'm a bad driver and drive up my insurance rates. My car has extra sensitive sensors on one side. I've taken it to the dealership. They told me, oh, it's just too sensitive. We just don't know how to fix it. And as a result, it constantly triggers the collision alarm anytime a car in front of me just decides to turn right. So that goes off a couple of times a week. Well, guess what? That's going to indicate data that suggests I'm a bad driver.
Yeah.
Your car has a mind of its own.
Yeah,
and
Craig, you're a special case, but you're often a special case.
But my point being, I'm sure that's the case. That kind of stuff happens with just about every car, with just about every system. There are some quirks that are probably influencing the driver data that is then being sold to third parties that are using it to generate scores that result in higher insurance rates.
And then what do you do with self-driving vehicles? So if the vehicle is making those decisions with intelligent computer systems and detection systems, whose data really is it in that case? And whose insurance goes up?
But don't you understand? That's the point. This is the plot, to make us so infuriated and frustrated with driving that we just hand over the keys to some robot and say, okay, you
But
drive.
then we don't have to pay for car insurance at all.
You really think that's how that's going to turn out? Panel, Disney is trying to wriggle out of a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the surviving spouse of a woman who suffered a fatal allergic reaction at a Disney World restaurant. As NPR's Rachel Treisman reported Wednesday, Jeffrey Piccolo is representing the estate of his late wife, Dr. Kanokporn Tongswan, who died after dining at Raglan Road Irish Pub in Disney Springs. The woman was, quote, highly allergic to dairy and nuts, and the restaurant promised to accommodate her food allergies, but ultimately served her those allergens. She was rushed to the hospital but died due to the reaction. So why is Disney seeking to get the suit tossed? Because Piccolo in 2019 signed up for a month-long trial with the Disney Plus streaming service and then bought park tickets in 2023. In each case, he approved terms and conditions which included an arbitration clause for, quote, all disputes against, quote, the Walt Disney Company or its affiliates. Piccolo's lawyers call that rationale preposterous, bordering on the surreal. They also note Piccolo's suit is being brought on behalf of his late wife's estate, which did not sign off on such terms. Disney wants a wrongful death suit tossed because the decedent's widower signed up once for Disney Plus. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Lisa.
It's which is good. What am I talking about? The lawsuit or the actual situation? The lawsuit, I think, is good.
However you want to do it.
The lawsuit's good. The situation is terrible. And I think many of us these days, looking at these silly contracts we're forced to sign, are thinking, yes, borderline preposterous or flat out preposterous. I mean, really, I'm not going to sign this thing. I have a choice not to sign it, and then my kid doesn't get to go with a jumpy house for the birthday party or on the field trip, and then I'm the evil one. No, we all sign it, and we grimace past these stupid lines that if your child is dismembered or, whatever, oh, well, just get on with your life. Sign on the dotted line. So at some point, I think we need some legislation or some really strong case law just talking about how these ridiculous clauses should not even be allowed. We shouldn't, I have had a couple of occasions of signing contracts, and I've showed them to a lawyer first, and they've made the comment, this is so ridiculous it can't even be enforced. Mm-hmm. But still, they're being stymied by that clause in their litigation is taking time, is taking money to argue the point. So why is it allowed in the first place?
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Jen?
So I agree. I think this is an ugly situation at multiple levels. So obviously it's ugly. A woman lost her life for reasons that were perfectly preventable, and that should be acknowledged. I also think it's ugly the sheer lengths to which Disney is clearly trying to avoid responsibility, and I think that's ugly as well. But then similarly, call me cynical, I think there's a very ugly potential for precedent this case could set. So I agree. We've become, as a society, either completely desensitized to terms of use agreements or completely too trusting that the document we've just agreed to, most likely without reading, only pertains to what it's about on its surface. In this case, to the use of a streaming platform. I admit I signed a term of use agreement just last week, and I didn't read a word of it. So I can't help but wonder if this case would open the door to other companies looking for ways to eliminate their liability in the most extreme ways. So Disney took its platform user release of liability into an amusement park. Would Fandango take theirs into the movie theater? Would Apple Plus take theirs into the Apple Store? So it just seems like a potentially very slippery slope, said from a non-attorney but an expert in streaming platforms.
This is, even Ursula wouldn't do this. I mean, with those shady contracts that she had, the worst villain and the most awesome, in my opinion. But, even her contracts weren't this shady.
Jafar would do it.
Maybe so.
I think so. Finally, panel, the Tennessee Titans, the NFL franchise that used to be the Houston Oilers, has certainly earned area football fans' ire over the last year by wearing Oilers colors against the Texans and threatening legal action against UH for wearing uniforms with somewhat similar colors to the old Oilers unis. Now the Titans quarterback may be threatening to offend, well, just about everybody through his partnership with Hellmann's Mayonnaise. As the Nashville Tennesseans' Nick Suss explained this week, the QB and Hellmann's have unveiled Will Levis No. 8, a specialty fragrance capitalizing on the viral fame he earned in college when he posted a video of him drinking coffee with mayonnaise mixed into it. The scent is advertised as containing, I hope you're holding on to something, notes of tart lemon, mayonnaise accord, coffee, musk, and vanilla. Hellmann's claims it's the first scent produced by any condiment company. Titans QB Will Levis and Hellmann's unveil a mayonnaise cologne. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jennifer Hedaya.
Okay, so first off, this has been the week of the wacky mashup. So first we had the Coca-Cola Oreo collab. Now we have mayo and fragrance for men. So who knows what's coming out tomorrow? And yes, as a Houstonian, I hear you. I grew up with the Oilers, and I feel deeply obligated to dislike everything the Titans do. So what I'm about to say may be controversial, but I have to say, I think this story is good, clean, maybe slightly smelly fun. I love the play on Chanel No. 5 using his jersey. And by the way, a bottle of the cologne also costs $8. I also love the commercials. They look and feel like the old Calvin Klein Obsession commercials. There's blurry images of him running halfway shirtless and a whispered voiceover encouraging you to embrace who you really are and not be ashamed of your strange food preferences. So this whole thing just says to me, let your freak food flag fly. And as somebody with a lot of guilty food pleasures, I am all here for it.
Say that 3 times fast. Freak food flag fly.
That's right, Craig.
Ooh, that's good. Lisa.
I think this is bad. As someone who hates mayo beyond. But you know what? I have recently found a recipe that, well, basically if you take mayo and you use it for grilling, put it on first, and all the stuff sticks better, and then mayo has fat and it has okay, so I have finally found some kind of use for mayo, but this is ridiculous. People are just getting crazy. Chipotle has a lipstick now. What is up with that? And what are the people at Whataburger doing? Where is this spicy ketchup cologne or whatever you want it? Body wash. I mean,
facial. That would work.
Are we really? We're not eating enough or something that they've got to find these other outlets. Anyway, this is one of the more repulsive topics that you've brought before us.
It did raise some great conversations in my household where I was saying to people, all right, so if you had to pick that very strange, almost embarrassing food combination to then wear as cologne, what would it be? And I got some really interesting answers. So we have a, potato chip on the cheese sandwich cologne. We have the pickles and noodles cologne, just all those things you eat and you don't tell anybody you eat. And then, all right, if, Vlasic wants to call me and offer me a cologne deal, I'm here.
I think you did just tell everyone pickles and noodles, that's your combination, isn't it?
Yes. I'm open to endorsement deals.
With hints of dill and fettuccine.
Well, Parmesan did just sponsor an Olympian, so maybe there's something there.
That's true. Jennifer Hedaya is Executive Director of Air Alliance Houston. Lisa Falkenberg is the Editor of Opinion for the Houston Chronicle. Jennifer, Lisa, thank you both.
Thank you, Craig.